Here is JoLyn to talk about how to get the results that you want.
Thank you, Renee. Thanks so much. I want to thank Renee too, and I've thanked her before for getting me outside of my comfort zone. This was a very meaningful trip for me because I had a car accident 5 years ago where I incurred a spinal cord injury, and that's why I'm in the wheelchair. And I'm believing I'm going to walk again. Some of my doctors don't, but they really don't matter. It's what I believe in what matters. And you know, I've been telling my family for probably the last couple of years, I really need to fly. I need to get back out and start living my life because I love to travel, I love to do things. And I just kept, you know, coming up with excuses of why I couldn't, because it's going to be so hard and I don't know what to expect, and you know, what if I can't get in the airplane seat, or what, you know, just all these what ifs. And then this email from Renee came and said, you know what, would you come out and give your presentation? And because it's something I so strongly believe in, I said yes at a weak moment. And I'm so glad I did, because it wasn't bad at all. Thankfully, I had my mother with me to help me. But you know, I kind of bit the bullet and did it. And now I've done it once, and now I think I can do it again. So again, it's truly a pleasure to be here with you. And I see some familiar faces out there, and I see some new faces, so it's nice to have you all here with me. You know, when Renee asked me to come to speak, I really had to stop and think about what I wanted my message to be. And so I kind of began to think about my life, some of the lessons I've learned over the years along the way regarding my life, my health, the changes in my health that have occurred as a result of my accident. And just this journey that I've been on, and that I'm constantly on, and that we're constantly on as people. And you know, how some of these life experiences have changed the way that I look at my life, the way that I look at myself, the way I look at my health, and my attempt to get positive results out of my life. Because I had a plan. Once my son graduated and got married, got off on his own, I had a plan of what my life was going to look like. And in a matter of 2 seconds, that was totally changed. So my plan has changed. I still have a plan, but it's a little bit different. It looks a little bit different than it did. And you know, I know we've all had experiences in our lives where, you know, things have impacted us. People have hurt us. People have loved us. People have left us. Things have happened to us. And we've all had those experiences that happened to us. And they've helped shape us and mold us into the people that we are today. And so, like I said, one of the things that I constantly think about is how can I continue to get the results out of my life that I want? So before I go any further, what I'd like for you to do is I want you to think just for a moment of a situation in your life where you would like to get different results. Maybe things just aren't going the way you want them to. You know, they're just not going as well as you'd like them to. Maybe it's in your career. Maybe it's in your professional life. Maybe it's in your personal life. Maybe it's with a relationship with a colleague. Maybe it's with a relationship with a student. Maybe a relationship with a spouse, a child, a sibling. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to give you just a minute or two. If you want to jot that down, that might be helpful if you have an opportunity to do that. And just jot that situation down of where you'd like to get different results. Things aren't going the way you want them to. Okay, so take just a minute and do that. Okay, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about this concept called getting results. And I'm going to start off with, I want to do an activity. I'm going to ask Renee to come up with a chair, and her and I are going to demonstrate what I want you to do. And as soon as we demonstrate it, what I want you to do is I want you to pick a partner. And I want you to pick a partner that's somewhat kind of about the same height, because it'll be easier. And if you at all have like a bad back, or you don't feel strong on your feet or whatever, don't participate, because safety obviously is my number one concern. It's not that we're going to do anything real rigorous, but I just want everybody to be safe when they do this. So since I'm in a wheelchair, I'm going to have Renee sit, but I want you guys to stand when you do it, okay? So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you stand up and face one another and stand toe to toe. So your right toes are touching one another, okay, standing straight up. And I want you to grasp each other's right arms like this, or right hands like this, okay? And when we do this, we're going to play a game, all right? And so obviously the object of a game is what? To win, absolutely. Good job, Lisa. So let's all jump on the bandwagon with Lisa. And the purpose of a game is what? To win. To win, right. Now, in this game, the way you win is to get points. And the way you get points is by each time your hand touches your partner's right shoulder, you get a point. And then vice versa. All right? So again, now, what do we want to do? Win. Exactly. The object of the game is to win. All right. So everybody get your partner.
Be nice.
Be nice, girls, Lisa and Rachel. Okay? Come on, everybody's got to stand up. Leave your food for just a minute. Stand toe to toe. My mom can help if somebody needs a partner. My mom will participate. Yeah, you're going to be pretty close, but again, you're going to be off a little bit because your right toes are going to be touching. Your right toes are going to be touching one another. All right? And remember, every time your right hand touches your partner's right shoulder, you get a point. And each time their hand touches your right shoulder, they get a point. Now, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to play this game, and I want you to keep track of your points. Okay? All right, everybody with me? All right, ready? Go. Okay, stop. Stop. All right, okay, you can sit down. What? They're still... Okay, Tiger and Mom, you can stop. All right. Now, let me ask you, how many of you worked really hard but didn't get very many points? All right. How many points did you get? You
0. We were 0 to 0.
Neither one of you got any points because you both resisted so much. Wow. All right. How many of you got, say, 5 points? Does anybody get 5 points? Raise your hands. Okay, anybody get 10? Ooh. 15. 20. Okay, how many did you get? How many points did you get? 17. All right, would you guys be so kind to demonstrate how you got 17 points?
Come up front, you guys.
All right. Oh. Wow, let's go. Good job. What?
He wanted to do that too, and I said, no, we're going to resist.
All right, now think of the differences in the two that got no points versus Carl, is it? Carl and Eric, yeah. And the technique they used, and they got 17 points. Now, what was the difference? They cheated. What'd you say? Okay, they used teamwork, really, didn't they? Who won with Eric and Carl? Who was the winner? There really wasn't a winner, was there? Or It was what?
It was an uneven number.
Okay, which means what?
7-1.
Which means they counted their points together. Together they count 17
We
points.
counted separate. I counted, he counted. We each had 17.
Oh, so you each had 17. So you actually had 34 together.
And they counted each
For-
other's.
And they counted each other's points.
No,
Or-
I counted mine, he counted.
You counted, okay, all right, but you both got 17. All right? Now, you think about this. Again, I set it up that it's a game, right? And the object of the game was to win. But depending upon what your thought process was of winning, that's how you approached the game. Some of you tried really hard because winning was meaning me. I'm going to win. And my partners got to what? Lose, right? But with Carl and Eric, it was kind of a win-win, wasn't it? I mean, they just went, just kind of went to town. All right? Now think about this in the workplace. What happens when we look at our work teams and we look at it from the standpoint of someone's got to win and someone's got to lose? If I'm going to win, then someone else has to lose. Versus what if we look at it as, hey, we can all win, right? We can all play this game. But again, this whole notion of our everyday behaviors is an example of how powerful our beliefs and our thinking influence the way that we respond to in a situation without even thinking about it. Some of you probably didn't even think about, the thought that we could both win in this game. We could just really go to town and get a lot of points. Because I said the way that you win is to get points. The more points. Yeah, exactly. So again, our thought process and our beliefs and the way we look at things really influence the way we behave every day without even thinking about it, without even subconsciously. We don't even think about it. So, yes?
If we were playing with a child, in our eyes, we might win if we let them.
Yes. Because why? Why do we do that? Why might we do that?
Because we're giving them a lesson.
Okay, we're trying to teach them something. All right? Exactly. Any other thoughts on the game, the win-lose game, and how our thought processes affect the way we behave? Yes.
Can we play again?
Now that you know, right? All right. So let's talk about this whole idea of getting results. Some of you that were in the accountability workshops saw a kind of a version of this the other day. But this is the tool I use, called a tool called the results cone. Now, up at the top, all right, we have results, right? Now, whether we talk about in our personal life or professional life, we're trying to get results. Maybe we're trying to work on a relationship. Maybe we're trying to study really hard so we get an A on a test. Maybe we're trying to work really hard at softball so we can be the best third baseman or whatever position you play. You're trying to get results, all right? Now, how do we get results? What has to happen in order for us to get results? You have to what? You got to have a plan, perhaps? Somebody else said something. You got to do something, don't you? You have to take some action in order to get a result. Whether it's the result you want or not, you've got to do something. Maybe it's planning, maybe it's prioritizing, maybe it's practicing, maybe it's studying, maybe it's reading a book about relationships if you're trying to work on a relationship. It can mean a lot of different things, but you've got to do something. You have to do some action, all right? And that's the behavior piece here, all right? So in order to get results, we have to have some sort of behavior. We have to do something. We have to take some sort of action. So think about our behaviors. With behaviors creating results. Why do we behave the way we do? Why do we act the way we do? Your answer's right up there, Karen.
I guess at some point we think that it's worked before. If we think it's going to work, then we'll do it.
Okay, it's worked before, so we're going to do it again, right? So it's our thinking, right? Because of the way we think, that causes us to behave in a certain way. And when we behave a certain way, we get certain results. Okay? So our thinking has a lot to do with our behaviors. Our beliefs, like Renee was talking about earlier, and the belief that you had when you played the game. The belief that if I'm going to win, my partner's got to lose. That caused you to act a certain way, and you got certain results. Some of you got no points, which was not the desired result we wanted. Because to win, you were to get the most points. But because of your belief or your thought process that if I'm going to win, because that's what she told me to do, the object of the game is to win, and the way I'm going to win is to get points. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to really try hard to keep my partner's hand from touching my shoulder. Consequently, you got the results as a result of your actions. All right? So our thought processes and our beliefs, the assumptions that we make, cause us to do things, cause us to behave to get us the results.
But with Carl and Eric, their belief was that they could both win by being equal.
Yes.
So they're collaborative rather than
Competitive, exactly. And yet they won.
And so they won
They won.
because of their belief.
Yes. And the way they played the game. Mm-hmm. Now, you think back to your childhood, and I'm sure we've all had beliefs that were ingrained in us in our childhood because of things we heard our parents say, or our caregivers, or the influence that our friends had on us or teachers had on us. So think for just a minute, if you will. Go back to your childhood. Some of us, it takes a little bit more to go way back there than others. But think about some of the beliefs that were instilled in you that you see affecting you today in the way you operate. Anybody have any examples of beliefs, maybe from childhood or just from your younger years, that have really influenced you? Yes. Oh, Lee, I'm sorry. I thought Lee was raising. I thought Lee was. Yes.
To always tell the truth. That was ingrained in me. I got in trouble for lying, and consequences. So I learned that it's very important to tell the truth. And the way that affects me now is that I kind of expect everybody else to do that.
Okay, and you place a strong value on honesty, I presume, because you've had that ingrained in you that it's always right to tell the truth. It's the thing to do. Okay? Good. Yes.
My mom got married really young, and so all growing up, she was always telling me to go out and explore the world and do what I want to do and establish myself before I do that. And so I've always been really independent.
Okay. All right. Because that's what you saw, and she probably encouraged that in you, it sounds like. Okay. What else? Yes.
Some of us are on a weight program that we're watching our weight, and one of the things from childhood is clean your plate.
Yes.
And, that's a hard thing
So
to, leave things on your plate when you've always been taught
To clean up your plate before you leave. Yeah. And so, yeah, if you're in a position where you're trying to lose weight, that's hard because that you don't just dismiss that. Even though you don't realize it, it's hard. I mean, I know my mom is one of those. We've talked about that. That I was raised with that too. You clean your plate because there's starving children in the world. Of course, my thought was, well, then send this to them. They want it, I don't. All right, what else?
Something that I've been studying when working with children of different cultures and teachers of different cultures, it goes back to the collaborative and the individual. Many Western teachers believe you do it yourself, you do it individually, learning is individually, but many Hispanic and Native American groups are collaborative. You do things with a greater group, you do things as a group, you learn as a group, and so when you get into school, sometimes that can be an interesting results.
Dynamic, yeah, yes, especially when you put them together and give them a goal or give them something to do and the way they approach it. Absolutely. Good. Any others that you can think of that have really influenced you? Yes, Eric.
There was a German cabinet maker that I worked with for a while, and we wanted to go on to 4 10-hour days instead of working 5 8-hour days a week, so we could have a big long weekend. I remember him saying, "You should try to live a little every day." That's influenced me a lot.
Oh, neat. All right. Good. Somebody else had their hand up. Yes.
My mother was a school teacher, and she always taught me, all while I was growing up, that you could help people find the right way to do things if you love them enough.
Neat.
And
So how's that affected you today?
I try to be a lot more conscious of how I deal with other people and how I treat them, and if there's a problem, how I approach that so that I don't come across as being unkind.
Okay, good, excellent.
Hopefully that works, I don't know how well.
I have a feeling it does, yeah, yeah.
So let's shift gears for just a minute and think about the workplace and think about your jobs and your roles. Are there certain beliefs or assumptions that you make that affect the way you do your work or the way that you interact with those around you? And maybe they're beliefs that have been ingrained from a long time ago, but they affect you in the workplace. Do you have certain beliefs about students or assumptions about the student body or those that you work with that might be affecting the way you do your job? Anybody? Yeah, Renee.
My dad was a colonel in the Army, and he raised us to, and Carl will relate to this, but he raised us, you know what's right, you know what you gotta do, just get it done. And then, and that's the way it works in the military, and that's the way it happened for him. And so I just always saw that happening, and then you get into a real, other work situations in the public sector, and at a university, and it's all about committees, and you gotta go through this. And so that was very, and so I would go in and we'd be in a committee and we'd be talking about logical, reasonable things, and I'm like, okay, let's do it. Oh, no, we need to talk about this for, a couple more weeks. And
Have everybody get involved and give their
Yeah,
2 cents?
And there's goodness to be home through that too,
Sure.
but it was a huge adjustment.
Yeah, when you were raised in a very different type of atmosphere or environment. Exactly. So when you think about your role and some of the beliefs that you have that you hold on to that may be getting in your way of getting the optimal results you want, that's really where we have to start with. If we want to get different results, it starts with our thinking. All right? If you're not getting what you want out of a certain situation or relationship, you need to reassess what your thinking is, what your thought process is. Because if you could change your thinking, and I'm not saying necessarily change your beliefs, I'm not here to say you need to change your beliefs, but you need to think about, are my beliefs or my thinking causing me to get the result that maybe isn't the optimal result that I want? All right, and down at the bottom of the results cone is something that I call insights or ahas. And these are things that cause us to challenge our thinking, all right, or challenge us to think about our beliefs, and maybe it's not completely accurate, all right? And many times, at least for me, these insights or these ahas have come at a time in my life that they can be very painful and somewhat dramatic, but yet that's what's caused me to really change my thinking. And I'll give you an example. I was raised with the belief that life is tough. There are problems out there, it's not easy, and you're going to have a tough row ahead of you because that's just the way life is. I can remember my dad saying to me, life is tough, and you're going to have problems, and you're going to need to solve your problems, and you're going to need to know how to solve your own problems. You can't be going to other people all the time to solve your problems, because other people have problems of their own. And they don't need you going to them to solve your problems. So you need to be tough, because life is tough. And you got to be a problem solver, because life is full of them. All right? And so as a result of that, I became a very independent person. It served me pretty well, actually. I got a lot of things done. I moved through my career very well because I got things done. I was a problem solver. I didn't go to other people. I just kind of went about my life. And if I had a problem, I figured out a way to do it, because other people have other problems. They don't need you coming to them. And usually, I remember also he say, their problems are usually much bigger than yours. And so you need to be resourceful and figure out a way to solve your own problems. And like I said, that served me pretty well. Until I came to a time in my life where I found myself as a single parent, which seemed to be very suddenly. It wasn't so much, but it seemed in my life, in my time, it seemed to be that I was just like, I had a partner and then all of a sudden I don't. And I'm raising a child. At the time he was about 5 or 6 years old. I had a very good career. I was commuting to work each day, 1 hour each way, so I was at least 2 hours on the road, in addition to the 8 or 9 or 10 hours that I put in. And trying to, raise him to be a good boy, trying to keep my life, or keep my, house going, mow the lawn, all those things that we all do. And I wasn't about to ask for help, because I could do this. I'm tough. People go through divorce all the time. There's all kinds of single parents out there. They do it, so I could certainly do it, because I'm tough. I've done it all along, all my life. But it came to a point in my life where I could not do it anymore. My life was a wreck. Zach was having problems in school. My son was having problems in school. My job, I was having problems with my job. Things were falling through the cracks. My life was just a mess, to be real honest with you. It was just a mess. And I finally remembered my family and my friends saying, they were there for me all along, because I can remember them saying, JoLyn, let us help you. And I'd say, I can do this. No, that's all right. I don't need your help. Don't worry about it. I can do it. And what happened over the course of a few years is they just began to forget about even trying to offer help, because I had built up such a wall around me, because I'm tough. I can do this. I don't need people to help me in my life, because I can get through this myself. And I began to shut them out. I shut my own family out, not even realizing it, but I did. And then I finally had one of my best friends come to me one day, and she said, you know what, JoLyn? She said, it's all right if you let someone help you. It's not a sign of weakness. But in my mind it was, because, I can do this. And you have problems of your own. So what I found myself doing is I but eventually and gradually began reaching out to family and friends and letting them help me. And over the course of a year or two, it was amazing how my life had changed. My career got back on track. Zach got back on track through some counseling and just different things where I opened up myself and let people start helping me. And so I share that story with you because, again, my thought process was, I got to be tough, I got to be strong, I can do this myself. And it kept me from getting the results that I was wanting in my life, which was, a healthy son, a good career, all those things that I talked about. And when I began to let people start helping me and getting into my life and asking for help and using that help, my life started changing dramatically and began getting the results that I wanted in my life. So, as we talk about beliefs and assumptions, again, we simply assume many times that the way we see things is the way they really are, or the way they should be. And our attitudes, our beliefs, and behaviors grow out of those assumptions. So the question I leave with you is, what assumptions are you making that may be inaccurate? assumptions that you're making about your life, about yourself, about relationships in your life, about students, about your customers, what have you. Are there assumptions that you're making that could be keeping you from getting optimal results in your life? And this is a tool that I use called the responsibility principle, that if you want to get different results, you have to change your behavior. And ways you can do that is either stop what's not working, start what might work, and continue to do what's working. I call it the stop, start, continue principle. Okay, so think about that. What are some things in your life maybe you need to stop doing that might help you get results? What could you start doing? And what are those things that are working for you that you want to make sure that you continue to do? All right? So, excuse me. Another area, I need to kind of move along here because we're running out of time, so I'm going to run through this pretty quickly, but please ask questions if I run over anything too fast. But another area of my life where I wasn't getting results I wanted was feeling like I had a life that was balanced, because I was just so scattered everywhere. I didn't feel like I was doing anything any justice, and I didn't feel balanced at all. So when we talk about balance, it's like, what is this balance thing? So just real quickly, I want you to just kind of tell me, what does balance mean to you? What does it feel like to be balanced? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Just give me some feedback. How do you know when you have a balanced life?
Balance is even to me.
It feels even, okay, all right. It's kind of on a continuum that everything feels pretty much okay, all right, on an even keel. What else? What does balance feel like? Yeah, Sheena?
I feel like when you're not overloaded in one area and you're at work and other times you have time to spend with your family or to do the things you enjoy.
Okay, so there's a balance between what you have to do and what you enjoy doing, okay, that one's not getting short-sighted. Okay, good. So let's talk a little bit about balance, what it is. These are just my thoughts of what balance is and what it is not. To me, it's a dynamic process. It's not a destination. I don't believe you ever get there. You learn it along the way. It's a process that changes all the time because of what's going on in your life. It's active and ever-changing. It's a verb. It's not a noun. It's active. You're doing something to make it happen. Balance is active. It's an action word. And it's your actions and it's what you do that creates balance in your life. And again, going back to the results cone, what you do are your behaviors. And if you're not feeling balanced, maybe you need to rethink, what does balance look like and what would make my life balanced if I had it. All right? I look at balance as kind of like a tightrope. All right? It's constantly, you're just kind of juggling it all the time, and it changes based on what's happening in your life. Okay? And you're kind of like walking a tightrope when you're trying to get balance. To me, there's three very important elements to balance: your physical, emotional, and your spiritual well-being. And all play a part in balance, in keeping yourself balanced. It's your physical self, your emotions or your mental well-being, and your spiritual well-being. Now, you notice the one I have on the bottom of the triangle is the spiritual. And that's there for a reason. And the reason I feel like the spiritual is on the bottom is because, to me, that's your basis. If you are at balance in your spiritual life, there's a pretty good chance that your physical and emotional mental balance is there as well, or it's close. At least that works for me. If I feel like my spirituality is intact, then the rest of my life is going pretty well as well. But if my faith has been challenged, or if I'm questioning my faith, or what have you, anything with my spirituality, then it affects the rest of my well-being as well, and I get out of balance. So let's just talk real quickly about the different elements. Physical might mean your eating habits. Are you eating healthy foods? Or are you eating a lot of processed foods? Makes a huge difference. Are you getting enough exercise? Yoga, Tai Chi, and Pilates, I believe in them. In fact, they were a big part of my rehabilitation process after my car accident. it was pretty new to me, especially the Tai Chi and the Pilates part. But when one of my therapists said, we're going to start with getting your inner core intact, and we're going to start with doing some Tai Chi and Pilates, I was like, what? I've got a spinal cord injury. I need to start, getting up and walking. That's what I need to do. And she taught me that I needed to take care of my inner core, and a lot of that was through Tai Chi and Pilates and yoga. Emotional well-being, again, just your thoughts and your thinking. What are your feelings? And again, kind of rechecking. What am I thinking? What am I feeling that might be causing me to be out of balance? Spirituality, your inner strength, that peace, that hope, that faith that you have that keeps you intact and keeps you on the straight and narrow so you feel like you are going in balance. These are just some tips that I share with you, some relaxation tips, if you will, for work and life balance. The first one to me is probably the most important, and that's committing to your self-care. Because if you don't, nobody else will. If you don't take care of yourself, nobody else will. And one of the best things you can do is give yourself at least 30 minutes a day to where that is you time. That's me time. It's not spent helping other people, because you probably do that enough in the rest of your life. But treat yourself. Be selfish. Give yourself at least 30 minutes a day. Take a walk. Do yoga. Whatever it is that you enjoy. Read. Whatever some of those most important and enjoyable things to you. Spend 30 minutes a day and do that. For me, before my car accident, it was walking with my dog. It was the best therapy for me, was just to go out and walk along the lake with my dog Cooper and just take in the fresh air. That did wonders for me. Okay? I want to share a quick story with you. Some of you may have heard this, but to me it kind of illustrates this, identifying what are the priorities in your life and what are the things that are really important to you. It's called a mayonnaise jar and 2 sodas. Have any of you heard of that? Mayonnaise jar and 2 soda stories? When things in your life seem almost too much to handle, when 24 hours a day in a day are not enough, remember the mayonnaise jar and the 2 sodas. A professor stood before his philosophy class and had some items in front of him. When the class began, he wordlessly picked up a very large and empty mayonnaise jar and proceeded to fill it with golf balls. Then he asked the students if the jar was full, and they agreed that it was. The professor then picked up a box of pebbles and poured them into the jar. He shook the jar lightly, and the pebbles rolled into the open areas between the golf balls. He then asked the students again if the jar was full. They agreed that it was. The professor next picked up a box of sand and poured it into the jar. Of course, the jar filled up everything else. He asked once more if the jar was full. The students responded with a unanimous yes. The professor then produced 2 sodas from under the table and poured the entire contents into the jar, effectively filling the empty space between the sand. The students laughed. Now, said the professor as the laughter subsided, I want you to recognize that this jar represents your life. The golf balls are the very important things. Your family, your children, your health, your friends, and your favorite passions. And if everything else was lost, and the only thing that they remained, and they were the only thing that remained, your life would still be full. The pebbles are the other thing that matters, like your job, your house, your car, and the sand is everything else, the small stuff. If you put the sand into the jar first, there's no room for the pebbles or the golf balls. The same goes for life. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, you'll never have room for the things that are really important to you. Pay attention to those things that are critical to your happiness. Spend time with your children. Spend time with your parents. Visit with grandparents. Take your spouse out to dinner. Play another 18 holes. There's always going to be time to clean the house and fix the disposal. Take care of the golf balls first, the things that really matter. Set your priorities, because the rest is just sand. One of the students raised her hand and inquired what the sodas represented. The professor smiled and said, I'm glad you asked. The sodas just show you that no matter how full your life may seem, there's always time to have a soda with a friend. So I share that with you because to me, again, sometimes I have to rethink the mayonnaise jar. And I think, you know what, is this a golf ball or is this sand? A lot of times it's just sand, but I make a golf ball out of it. So you really need to identify those golf balls in your life and put those in your jar first and then fill it up with the rest. Okay, a couple other things. Move that stored energy. Again, that excess energy. Get out in nature. Sometimes a good cry will just help. For those of us that are criers, sometimes that really helps. Just go in a room and cry. And music. I love to have music help me. It's very inspirational at times. Attentive awareness. Make some detailed lists. Throw away those negative thoughts. When you get those negative thoughts, see in your mind throwing them away. I mean, literally see that thought on a piece of paper. See yourself wadding it up and throwing it away. And get rid of those negative thoughts. Wear new eyes. In other words, look at it from a new perspective. Appreciate the now moments. Those moments where you are physically, where you are mentally. And appreciate those. And be thankful for the things that you have, the riches you have. Sometimes I get kind of bogged down on, oh, woe is me. And I think about, if I could only have this or I could only have that. Instead of thinking about the things that I don't have, that I'm grateful that I don't have. I'm grateful that I don't have cancer. I'm grateful that I can at least move. I don't move like I used to, but I can at least move around. I'm grateful I don't have a terminal illness. So sometimes we have to be thankful for the things we don't have instead of just focusing on the things that we don't have. Remember to breathe. Again, being aware of your breathing and practice breathing, taking those deep, full breaths. Keep things in perspective. Ask yourself, how bad is it really? Is someone hurt? Are they ill? Or is this just a temporary thing? And I have something that I call the 3 lumps. All right? And it's asking yourself, is this a lump in your oatmeal? Is this a lump in your throat? Or is it a lump in your breast? And how important and how bad is it really? And it kind of helps me put things in perspective when I think about what kind of a lump is this? 9 times out of 10, it's an oatmeal lump. But I've made it a bigger one. All right? And then use humor. Again, learn to laugh at yourself. Because if you can't laugh at yourself, someone else will be glad to do it for you. Believe me. Okay? And again, change is up to you, because if you truly want life balance, you must nourish your body, nourish your mind, and nourish your soul. That physical, emotional, and spiritual triangle that we talked about. Very important. All right? So in closing, I want to share one more thing with you that Renee referred to, and it's called The Precious Present. This is a book that was shared with me by a boss of mine, that he could see where my life was going, because he was involved with me as my boss a lot as I was going through some of the down times in my life where I was trying to raise my son and maintain a house and everything. And he could see what was happening because he'd been there, done that. And he gave me this book, and it changed my life. And so I want to share it with you and hopefully give you some tips to think of. Once there was a boy who listened to an old man and thus began to learn about the precious present. It is the present because it is a gift, the contented man explained, and it's called the precious present because it is the best present of all. When the boy asked why, the old man explained, it is the best present a person can receive because anyone who receives such a gift is happy forever. Wow, the little boy exclaimed, I hope someone gives me the precious present. Maybe I'll get it for Christmas. The boy ran off to play, and the old man smiled. He liked to watch the little boy play. He saw the smile on the youngster's face and heard him laughing as he swung from a nearby tree. The boy was happy, and it was a joy to see him happy. The old man also liked to watch the boy work. He even rose early on Saturday mornings to watch the little laborer across the street mow the lawn. The boy actually whistled while he worked. The little child was happy no matter what he was doing. It was indeed a joy to behold. When he thought about what the old man had said, the boy thought he understood. He knew about presents, like the bicycle he got for his birthday and the gifts that he found under the tree on Christmas morning. But as the boy thought more about it, he knew the joy of toys never lasted forever. The boy began to feel uneasy. What then, he wondered, is the precious present? What could be so good, so much better than any other present, that it's called the precious present? What could possibly make me happy forever? He found it difficult to even imagine the answer. As he returned, he asked the old man, "Is the precious present a magical ring? One that I might put on my finger and make all my wishes come true?" "No," he was told. "The precious present has nothing to do with wishing." The little boy grew older. He continued to wonder. He went to the old man. "Is the precious present a flying carpet?" he inquired. "One that I could get on and go any place that I like?" "Nope," the old man quietly replied. "When you have the precious present, you are perfectly content to be where you are." Now that the boy was becoming a young man, he felt a bit foolish for asking, but he was uncomfortable. He began to see that he was not achieving what he wanted. "Is the precious present," he slowly ventured, "a sunken treasure? Perhaps rare gold coins buried by pirates long ago?" "No, young man," the old man told him, "it is not. The richness is rare indeed, but the wealth of the precious present comes only from itself." The young man thought for a moment, then he became very annoyed. "You told me," the young man said, "that anyone who received such a present would be happy forever. I never got such a gift as a child." "I'm afraid you don't understand," the old man responded. "You already know what the precious present is. You already know where to find it. And you already know how it can make you happy. You knew it best when you were a small child. You have simply forgotten." The young man went away to think, but as time passed, he became frustrated and finally angry. He eventually confronted the old man. "If you want me to be happy," the young man shouted, "why don't you just tell me what the precious present is? And where to find it?" The old man volleyed. "Yeah, exactly," the young man demanded. "I would like to," the old man began, "but I do not have such power. No one does." "Only you have the power to make yourself happy," the old man said. "Only you. The precious present is not something that someone gives you. It is a gift that you give yourself." The young man was confused but determined. He resolved to find the precious present himself. And so he packed his bags and he left where he was and he went elsewhere to look for the precious present. After many frustrating years, the man grew tired of looking for the precious present. He had read all the latest books, and he had looked in the Wall Street Journal, he had looked in the mirror and into the faces of other people, and he wanted to find that precious present. He had gone to extraordinary lengths. He had looked for it at the top of the mountains, in cold, dark caves. He had searched for it in dense, humid jungles, and underneath the seas. But it was all to no avail. His stressful search had exhausted him. Occasionally, he even became ill, but he didn't know why. The man returned wearily to the old man's side. The old man was happy to see him. They often smiled and occasionally laughed out loud together. The young man liked to be with the old man. He felt happy in his presence. He guessed that this was because the old man felt happy with himself. It wasn't that the old man's life was trouble-free. He didn't appear to have a lot of money. He seemed to be alone most of the time. In fact, there wasn't any apparent reason why he was so much happier and healthier than most people. But happy he was. And so there were those who spent time with him. Why does it feel so good to be with him, the young man wondered. Why? He left wondering. After many years, the once young man returned to inquire further. And now he was very unhappy and often very ill. He needed to talk with the old man. But the old man had grown very, very old, and all too soon he spoke no more. The wise voice could no longer be heard. The man was alone. At first he was saddened by the loss of his old friend, and then he became frightened, very frightened. He was afraid that he would never, never learn how to be happy, until he finally accepted what had always been true. He was the only one who could find his own happiness. The unhappy man recalled that the happy old man had told him so many years ago. But as hard as he tried, He couldn't figure it out. He tried to understand what he had heard. The precious present has nothing to do with wishing. When you have the precious present, you will be perfectly content to be where you're at. The richness of the precious present comes from its own source. The precious present is not something that someone gives to you, and it is something that you give to yourself. The unhappy man was now tired of looking for the precious present. He'd grown so tired of trying that he simply stopped trying. And then it happened. He didn't know why it happened, when it happened. It just happened. He realized that the precious present was just that, the present. Not the past, not the future, but the precious present. He realized that the precious moment is always precious, not because it's absolutely flawless, which it often seems not to be, but because it is absolutely everything that it is meant to be at that moment. In an instant, the man was happy. He realized that he was in the precious present. He raised both hands triumphantly into the cool, fresh air. He was joyous for one moment. Then, just as quickly as he discovered it, he let the joy of the precious present evaporate. He slowly lowered his hands, touched his forehead, and frowned. The man was again unhappy. Why, he asked himself, didn't I see the obvious long ago? Why have I missed so many precious presents? Why has it taken me so long to live in the present? As the man remembered his fruitless travels around the world in his search for the precious present, he knew how much happiness he had lost. In the past, he had sensed what he thought was imperfect in too many moments. He had not experienced what each special time and place had to offer. He had missed a great deal, and he felt sad. The man continued to berate himself, and then he saw what he was doing. He observed that he was trapped by his guilt about his past. When he became aware of his unhappiness and of his being in the past, he returned to the precious present, and he was happy. But then the man began to worry about the future. Will I, he asked, be able to know the joy of living in the precious present tomorrow? Then he saw that he was living in the future, and he laughed at himself. He listened to what he now knew, and he heard the wisdom of his own voice. It is wise for me to think about the past and to learn from my past, but it is not wise for me to be in the past, for that is how I have lost myself. It is also wise to think about the future and to prepare for my future, but it is not wise for me to be in the future, for that too is how I lose myself. And when I lose myself, I lose what is most precious to me. It was simple. It was so simple. And now he saw it. The precious present nourished him. But the man knew it was not going to be easy. Learning to be in the present was a process he was going to have to do over and over, again and again, until it became a part of him. Now he knew why he had enjoyed being with the old man. The old man was totally present when he was with the younger man. The old man wasn't thinking about something else or wishing that he was somewhere else. He was fully present, and it felt good to be with such a person. The younger man smiled at himself the way the old man used to smile. He knew, I can choose to be happy now, or I can try to be happy. When or if. The old man chose now, and now the man was happy. He felt at peace with himself. He agreed to savor each moment in his life as perfect and apparently good and apparently bad. Even if he didn't understand for the first time in his life, it didn't matter. He accepted each of his precious moments on this planet as a gift. I knew that some people choose to receive the precious present when they are young, others in their middle age, and some when they are very old. Some people, sadly, never do. I can choose the precious present whenever I want. So as the man sat thinking, he felt fortunate. He was who he was and where he was. And now he knew he would always be who he was, where he was. He listened again to his own thoughts. The precious present is what is. It is precious. Even if I don't know why, it is already just the way it is supposed to be. When I see the present accept the present, and experience the present, I am well and I am happy. Pain is the difference between what is and what I want it to be. When I feel guilty over my imperfect past, or I'm anxious over my uncertain future, I don't live in the present. Then I experience pain. I make myself ill or I am unhappy. My past was the present, and my future will be the present. The present moment is the only reality I ever experience. And as long as I continue to stay in the present, I am happy forever. Because forever is always the present. The present is simply who I am, just the way I am right now, and it is precious. The precious present is something precious that I can give to and receive myself. For I am precious. I am the precious present. The man smiled, then he grinned. It was as though he could hear the old man talking, and then his grin widened and he laughed. He felt a great joy. He knew he was listening to the old man, but to himself. It felt good for him to be with himself, just the way he was at that moment. He felt he had enough, he felt he knew enough, and he felt he was enough now. He finally found and accepted the precious present, and he was completely happy several decades later. The man had grown into a happy, prosperous, and healthy old man. One day, a little girl came by. She liked to listen to the old man, so she called him. It was fun to be with him. There was something special about him, but she didn't know what it was. On one special day, the little girl began to really listen to the old man. Somehow she sensed something important in his calm voice. He seemed very happy. The little girl couldn't understand why. How could someone so old, she wondered, be so happy? She asked the old man. The old man smiled. Then he told her. All of a sudden, the little girl jumped up and squealed with delight. As the girl ran off to play, the old man smiled, for he heard what she had said. Wow, she exclaimed. I hope someday someone gives me the precious present. So, in closing, that is my gift to you. It's the precious present. And believe me, I'm not perfect at it. I really have to consciously tell myself, right here, right now, is the precious present. It is who I am in this wheelchair, trying to do what I love to do. Because you see, prior to my accident, I would have been in these aisles. I'd have been hugging you. I'd have been touching you. I'd have been reassuring you. As a former human that I want to love and care for and hope for the best. But I can't do that near as easily anymore. And it's taken me a while to get to the point where I'm okay with this, with where I am right now. Do I worry about the future? I wouldn't say worry, but I think a lot about the future. Because I see my future as me walking again. And I get kind of spun up sometimes because I'm not there yet, but I will be. So I have to kind of bring myself back with the help of my mom and a lot of other people to say, you know, you are okay with who you are right now. So with that, my last slide. If you think the way you always thought, you will feel the way you always felt. But if you feel the way you always felt, you will do what you've always done, and you will get what you've always got. So again, I want to thank you for inviting me to share some of your time with me. I apologize I kept you over about 20 minutes. So take the precious present. Thank you. God bless. And maybe our paths will cross again someday. Thank you.